During your time at UChicago, whether you are a college or graduate student, it is important to take a holistic approach to taking care of yourself.
You don't have to do it alone. Student Health and Counseling Services offers the resources and services to help.
Let's explore some of those now. Student Health Services is where you would go for care when you're sick or injured, but they have so many other services.
Yeah, like gynecological services.
And we provide Pap test, sexually transmitted infection screening, HPV vaccinations, and contraceptive consultations. And we provide routine physical exams, PrEP therapy, travel immunizations, sports medicine care, and we even provide crutches.
I didn't know you offered so many services. That's impressive.
There's so much more to explore at Student Health Service, but first we need to head over to the other units of SHCS. Student Counseling Services is where you would go for mental health care, like therapy, support groups, and more. Your visits here are confidential.
What does confidential mean?
That means that apart from authorized student health staff, no one has access to your counseling files. They won't go on your academic record, and no one even needs to know that you visited SCS without your permission.
We also have counselors who are specially trained to help students with alcohol, substance misuse, eating disorders, LGBTQ concerns, couples counseling, and more.
We have helpful programs like the Academic Skills Assessment Program and Let's Talk, which offers informal drop-in consultations with a counselor at various locations on campus.
Also, you don't have to be in crisis to make an appointment with SCS. Students are encouraged to visit for any issue they may be facing, whether it seems big or small.
Very cool. I wish we could stay, but there are still more resources to see. So, where are we going now?
We're going to the Student Health Insurance Office.
What's insurance? All that paperwork? Oh no, why would you bring me here?
I know insurance can seem overwhelming, but it's really not that bad. And the student insurance staff are here to help.
We are the on-campus representatives of United Healthcare Student Resources, here to offer you guidance and assistance with your USHIP coverage.
Really? Wow, I didn't know there was someone on campus to help. I should really start reading the emails your office sends.
Rookie mistake. Here's some advice. Always read the emails that student insurance sends and pay attention to the deadlines. If you need help deciphering things, call one of the coordinators.
Please do. We're always glad to help.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
I'm so glad you finally understand the importance of insurance, but there are so many more resources to see, so we have to go now. Bye, and thank you so much for your time.
Hey, I know where we are. This is the Health Promotion and Wellness Office. They do public health initiatives on campus.
In my house, the Well Czars and peer health advocates reduce the risk of sexually transmitted disease and unwanted pregnancy.
How?
They provide safer sex resources, present sexual health workshops, and train the Well Czars on where to refer their classmates if they need help.
That's a great example. We actually reduce risks on campus by training the UChicago community in how to respond to signs of mental illness, and then we provide alcohol education on how to plan safe events on campus.
But how do you promote balance?
Well, we promote balance by focusing on the 7 key facets of wellness, and then we link students to the resources, the events, and the programs on campus that actually help develop and maintain those facets.
Yeah, I build my physical wellness by attending weekly yoga, my emotional wellness by practicing mindfulness, my social wellness at Uncommon Nights, and I explore multiple facets of wellness by attending Wellapalooza.
I'm impressed. How do you find time for all of that?
Well, it's not easy, but I make time because I understand how important it is to take care of yourself. And with all the student health and counseling resources available on campus, it's not hard to find help.
You're right. Why doesn't everyone know this?
I don't know. Let's tell them now.
Hey, UChicago. Whether you spend all day in a lab or in the library poring over texts or in the field collecting data, we want you to be successful.
Success starts with taking care of yourself. Student Health and Counseling Services is here to support and guide you through this process.
Okay, let's get down to some of the nitty-gritties. So first of all of our services are funded through what's called a student life fee. The student life fee is the only source of revenue for our student health service, counseling service, and health promotions and wellness service. The advantage to that is it means that certainly in the case of counseling and health promotion and wellness, those services are entirely free for students. At the student health service, it means that 90% of everything we do is completely free for students, and I can certainly talk about what isn't in those distinctions. So essentially, the student life fee pays for the stuff on the left. And by the way, there is actually a guide that we got that we put at the front, which actually might be helpful to reference. So the covered services are on page 3. So the services that are covered are essentially on the left side of the page, and on the right side of the page are the services that are not. So important things that are not. Pharmacy prescriptions would be billed to your insurance as per routine. Emergency care as per routine. Subspecialty services as per routine. EKGs, the cost of hospitalization, so on and so forth. All of those things will be billed to insurance as per routine. However, there is no cost. Just come see us at Student Health Service. So if a student is sick, I always tell them the best place to start is the Student Health Service. If we can't take care of it, we'll certainly try and figure out a way to get you to the place that can take care of it. Costs of care are very important, and we're trying to be much more transparent and open with students about the costs of getting care. I've only been here about 2 years, but one of the things that I think I have found is that so many of our students, it is the anxiety of illness and not the illness itself that drives so much of their behavior, and sometimes their behavior can occur without any thought about costs. So we like to remind them, and by extension you, about the costs of some of those care. At the left side of this graph are things like the student health clinic, which I said there's no bill for the physician visit. You come in, you see us, we're never going to bill you for that. We have a 24-hour nurse line, which is available 24 hours a day. So many times students need a little bit of triaging in terms of, is what I'm dealing with something that is emergent, maybe urgent, or something in between. And so the nurse line is available all the time at no cost to students. Healthiest You is a part of the United Healthcare Student Health Insurance Program. So it is a telemedicine app-based service so that you can use the app to communicate with a physician 24 hours a day. However, if your student does not have the United Student Health Insurance Plan and has a commercial plan, maybe under a family plan, many of the commercial plans already have some kind of telemedicine service. So I would urge you to work with your student to talk to them about telemedicine options which may already be available to them, usually at no extra cost, through their plan. There are a couple of what we would call convenience care clinics here in Hyde Park. Convenience care clinics would be like your CVS Minute Clinic or whatever sort of is the Walgreens version. So those are obviously more expensive than what I've just told you about. However, certainly not as expensive as an urgent care center. There are, oddly, no urgent care centers here in Hyde Park. The closest urgent care center is called South Loop Urgent Care. It is in the South Loop, obviously. And then there are a bunch of them downtown. Many of them are associated with Northwestern Medicine. However, Northwestern Medicine is in network both for our university health insurance plan and most of the big commercial carriers. After that, the price just goes way up. The emergency room is not a terrible place to be seen. I've been seen in an emergency room a couple of times. However, it's a very costly way of finding out that you have constipation, and that's a long story, which I'm happy to share should you ever be interested. My point being that the emergency room is appropriate in some cases. However, we would like to try and dissuade our students from going there out of a sense of urgency, as opposed to a sense of actual medical need. And so we like to give many, many services which we can use to help the student triage whatever their concern might be. The numbers to the Student Health Service and Counseling Service and HPW are, I think, on the final panel of your booklets. We are conveniently located. Student Health Service is at 59th and Maryland, which is near the medical campus. Our HPW colleagues are located at 61st and Ellis. Is that behind that's not the law school. It's behind SSA. It's behind the School of Social Service Administration. And then the Student Counseling Service is right up the street at Woodlawn and 56th Street. So they're all here on campus. It does take a little bit of walking. However, we aren't the most massive campus in the world. The point is we're all available here on campus. I am the source of all good things from the Student Health Service, but I figured I might as well put up some of the pictures of my minions just to show you that, you know, I like to give a little bit of credit to the lesser beings, okay? I say that to say that I am actually the least experienced member of our staff. Most of our staff have served something like 10 to 15 years on the low end, and we just had 2 of our staff members celebrate 30 years in student health. Student health it's not the easiest place to work for a number of reasons, and I can tell you that the people who are doing it do it because they love taking care of students. They know the stresses that students undergo. They know what it's like for students to be far from home, and they do this out of love. They sure as heck don't do it for the money, but that's a whole nother story, okay? Some of our services I can describe. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. And then we're open on selected Saturday mornings during the 3 main quarters, fall, winter, and spring, for urgent matters. So if you wake up on Saturday and you're sick, you can come to Student Health. However, we don't take routine matters on Saturday mornings. Now, of course, you don't have to be sick to come to Student Health. If you want a physical, you should come on in. If you know you're going to be traveling later in the year and you need travel vaccines, have your student come on in. After all, once we give you the vaccine, it's yours to keep, as I like to say. So encourage your students to think ahead and come on in if they need it. If your student has chronic conditions, please have them come in and establish care. They may not necessarily need anything from us. Certainly, if you have chronic conditions, and we have many more students who are lymphoma survivors, transplants, have had stem cell or organ transplants. So we have students who come with real illness. At least if you establish with us early on, then we can help facilitate your referrals or finding care. Our medical center is excellent, but there are also 2 or 3 other very excellent medical centers here in the city. We do a lot of medical triage. We have some women's care experts. We do PrEP therapy for HIV prevention. We have a standalone sexually transmitted infection testing clinic. I know that's not what any of you want to think about, but I can tell you that our #1 lab spend is testing for sexually transmitted infections, okay? So this is a reality of life, and so I am the one who personally looks over every single test. I personally inform everybody who has a positive test, and I personally make sure that everyone gets the treatment that they need. So this is a reality, and we've tried to make it as seamless and easy for students as possible. We also have a number of interpretation services. Some physical interpreters are available, but we also have a fairly good video interpretation service for people for who there is, because I like to say there's English and then there's medical English, and they're not always the same. Many family members often have these questions, and so I'll go through them in order because I think they're important. Can I get information about my child's care? Yes, if you have had a release signed by them. If you sign a release and you lodge it with the Student Health Center. Can you sign a release now? The answer is no, mostly because I don't want to be responsible for all those forms, okay? However, we can direct you on our website to where you can get the release, and then your student can bring in the release and have it registered at the Student Health Service with no problem. What happens in an emergency? The answer is it depends, and I promise you that I will get back to that, and I'm not going to answer it right now. I actually think that is worthy of some discussion, so I'm going to leave that to the end after my colleagues present. Where can they get help after hours and on weekends? So after hours, they can get help through our telemedicine service. They can get help through the nurse triage. They can get help at some of the convenience care clinics, which are often open until 9 or 10. Many urgent cares are open later than that. And then, of course, if necessary, the emergency room. But like I said, many students are better served by calling the nurse triage and getting some preliminary advice before making further steps. And then who can I contact if I need help with an issue? That answer is me. I am happy to field phone calls and emails directly. If you send me an email or a phone call within the first 4 weeks of the quarter, I will be late getting back to you. It is a very, very busy time of year, but I answer every phone call. I answer every phone call, and I answer every email. So please don't think that I'm ignoring you or blowing you off. Most of the time, I'm trying to figure out what is the issue so that I can get back to you with information. I have cards that have my email address as well as my office phone number on it. So if you would like that, I'm happy to give those to you. Our student counseling service is another arm of health promotion of the student health and counseling services. The student counseling service, our director, Dave Albert, likes to say that there is no problem too small. So many of your students will be away from home for the first time ever. That in and of itself can be stressful. The University of Chicago prides itself on being academically rigorous, as President Zimmer likes to say. What that means is they try and crush your spirit to the size of a walnut, all right? That's not really true, but my point is academic rigor comes with a certain set of intrinsic stress which they may not have been exposed to before, particularly because each of your students is first or second in their class, right? Everyone here is first or second in somebody's class. And so guess what? Someone ends up having to be last in class, and that by itself can be kind of a toxic mix for a student. So they like to say no problem is too small. Many of the counselors are generalists, but a number of them also have specialty expertise in substance use, in LGBTQ concerns, in adjustment problems. So they have a really good multidisciplinary team. And I guess the most important thing for all of you to know is that there is a student counseling service. So many students kind of suffer here in silence because they don't know or they're afraid to go. The point is there is a student counseling service. They take walk-ins. So if they went in on Monday morning at 9:45, they would be seated in the waiting room and someone would see them within the hour. So the point is, if your student needs help, please encourage them to seek help from the student counseling service. They have a couple of important programs that I wanted to highlight. One is the Academic Skills Assessment Program. ASAP is a kind of nice multidisciplinary service. Some students may have had learning differences or learning disabilities, but they were smart enough to make it through high school. And then they get here, and then all of a sudden, the learning difference, which may not have caused as much problem before, causes a problem now. ASAP is very good at helping to tease that out. Sometimes kids are depressed, and they are interpreting their depression as a lack of intelligence, an inability to cope, an inability to hack it. ASAP is very good at teasing that out. So our Academic Skills Assessment Program is very good at helping to make some of these nuanced decisions. There is a satellite walk-in therapy service called Let's Talk. So some students don't actually like going to the student counseling building. They feel uncomfortable because it's not like anybody ever goes in there because they're looking for directions, right? So sometimes students think that, oh my God, if I go up to student counseling, everyone will know. So the student counseling service has a lot of satellite walk-in services where you can sit down, you don't have to give your name, you don't have to give what school you are, you can talk with a counselor for about an hour and talk through with the counselor whether or not you need to escalate your conversation to the next level. Something like 60% of Let's Call contacts result in actual referrals to the student counseling service. So sometimes the student just needs to know, is what I'm dealing with actually something worthy of student counseling? And the answer is invariably yes. As I said, There is no problem too small. The Student Counseling Service provides consultation to faculty. Many of our faculty are the first to notice that something is awry with a student. And so we will be helpful to faculty in helping them think through how they might approach the student about getting help. Now, once a student comes to us, we are not allowed to share with the faculty, with the dean's office, with anyone that they actually came to the Student Counseling Service, but we do think it is useful to our faculty to help them navigate and negotiate the thicket of how do I help a student get to help. The service standard is no waiting list. Last year, I think every student who called got an appointment at student counseling within 5 days. And the consequence of that, however, is that if a student needs much longer term therapy, they are often referred to someone in the community. We can also talk a little bit later about how that process might actually work. For the purposes of time, I didn't want to necessarily go through that nitty-gritty, but the point is, if a student needs short course psychotherapy, they'll do it in-house. We have psychiatrists who are in-house and can carry students throughout their time here. So we can talk about that a little bit more. The numbers to the Student Counseling Service are in the booklet as well, but once again, like I said, the whole point is knowing there is a student counseling service. Your student does not have to suffer in silence on their own. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Julie Edwards to talk about our health promotion and wellness unit, as well as student insurance, which I'm always happy to not have to talk about.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So as Marius mentioned, I'm going to be talking about health promotion and wellness. And in the video, you saw the facets of wellness framework. And what we try to do is look at things from a preventative approach. So obviously, within student health, if students have a medical need and they are sick and they need to seek care, then they would go to student health. The same with student counseling. If they have something that they'd like to speak with a therapist about, they're able to do so within student counseling. What we do is we try to provide programming, events, and resources on campus that can really help students reduce stress and anxiety through multiple ways. And so I'm going to go into some of those in more detail now. We have a few large-scale events that we host on campus. The first being Wellapalooza is what we call it, and we have about 40 different campus partners as well as community agencies who come to campus. There's interactive activities for students, but it's really just to allow students to really link with different resources that are available to them. This campus is a huge campus and sometimes a bit decentralized, and so sometimes it's difficult for students to know all of the resources that are available, so we try to utilize Wellapalooza as that. It's held in autumn quarter and then also in spring quarter. Then we offer something called Pet Love, where we bring certified therapy dogs on campus. They're typically during reading period, so that when it's a higher stress time and students are actually preparing for finals, they can come, and we bring about 5 to 10 dogs. It depends on the day, but we have an agency that we work with so that students can participate in that. We also hold stress relief days where we have different activities that are happening. We provide snacks and just a way for students to connect with one another and also take a break from studying. Sometimes they don't understand that that's important too, and so we really want to encourage them to take a break sometimes so that they can engage with their peers. And then lastly, there's something called Study at the Arts. We partner with Logan, with the different art centers on campus, where they actually open the doors so that students can go in there and actually study, but then there's also different snacks, activities for them to do, and this is typically during finals week. So these are just some of the large-scale events that are open to all students, undergrad and graduate, so I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of those. We also have several programs or trainings that we offer on campus. The first I have listed here is called Mental Health First Aid. This is an 8-hour certification class that we actually train individuals on how to identify the signs and symptoms of mental health issues. How do you have a conversation with someone you're concerned about, and then refer them to the appropriate resources on campus. We used to only train our staff and faculty, but our data, that when we survey students, shows that students go to one another first sometimes before they go to professionals. And so we really want students to understand, how do I have a conversation with someone I'm concerned about, and then how do I refer them to the appropriate resources? These trainings, we're actually offering 2 student trainings per quarter this year, and so October 13th and October 20th are the 2 dates for this quarter, if your student is interested. We also offer mindfulness meditation classes, and we offer 4 4-week sessions per quarter. These typically fill up very quickly because we are limited to 15 students per session. And so if your student would be interested in that, I encourage you to have them go to our website, wellness.uchicago.edu, to sign up for one of those courses. But we do offer them each quarter in 4 different sessions. And then Refresh Sleep is an online sleep program where we actually send information out. It's just an online program. So for 7 weeks, students will receive 1 email from us per week where it has the data of why sleep is important and how you can make your environment more conducive to sleep, and the resources on campus that can also help. And so we average about 500 students per quarter that participate in this. And I also think it's because it's an email-based program, and so it's less hands-on for students, and so it's a bit easier for them to participate in. A few of our other programs, something new that we're offering this year is called wellness coaching. And so as Marius mentioned, sometimes there might be issues that students are experiencing and they just want to speak with someone to see, is this something that I need to seek counseling services? For the wellness coaching, we will use our Facets of Wellness framework for students to fill out an assessment to show maybe areas that they would like to focus on, whether it's nutrition, whether it's sleep, a wide variety of aspects. And then they actually complete a strengths assessment. And then they meet with one of our health educators so that she can go over what their strengths are. And the students actually develop some goals for an action plan of what they'd like to try and accomplish, whether it's in the next month or in the quarter or however long. They can meet with her as long as they would like. We've already had, I believe, 7 students now who have gone or at least started the process. So some are meeting with her on a monthly basis, others are doing it on a weekly. So it's really up to students to decide. But it's a program that we're really pleased that we're able to offer to students. Basics is something that it's called brief alcohol intervention, or brief alcohol screening and intervention for college students. So if a student is just concerned maybe about their own behavior or about someone else's as far as alcohol and other drugs, they're able to take an assessment and we meet with one of our health educators. When they complete that assessment, then they can see how they compare to their peers in either their habits or their peers' habits. And then she helps them through a motivational interviewing process to help them create some goals and strategies that they would like to achieve if they so choose. It's really based on the students and what they would like to be able to achieve in the future. And then lastly, we offer something called 21st birthdays. And so we actually just send an email to any students who are turning 21 and giving them alcohol-free events that are available on campus, as well as safe strategies for those who do choose to drink during their birthdays, but they receive a certificate from us. We partner with UChicago Dining, so they can go to a coffee shop and receive a free cup of coffee. So that's just something else that we offer as far as programs. And then we do a wide variety of workshops. So this just shows some of the different topics: financial wellness, stress and time management, sleep health, alcohol and other drugs, also self-care and the importance of it. So we do cover those, and those are available by request. And then we will offer some of those throughout each quarter. And then we also engage students. We have 5 paid workers in our department, and then we also have many volunteers. We have a peer health advocate program that we train the peer health advocates in how to deliver messages on campus. And so they'll be in housing, providing workshops, and they really educate their peers. The WellSARs are a resource that they are elected within the houses, so that if students have a question or a concern about anything regarding student health and counseling services, the WellSARs are the liaison, and they can reach out to their WellSAR. Student Health Advisory Board, Marius already mentioned, and then we also have a Wellness Advisory Board, and it's really just a grassroots effort on how can we make our environment here at UChicago a healthier one, and how can we support students' well-being. So those are some of the aspects. Our Better Together resource is something that we have that students can see on campus, and we also have a website and a Facebook page where we link them to different resources to connect with other students. And then we offer a listserv, which gives out weekly emails about things happening all across campus called Bust My Stress. We have a health promotion and wellness newsletter. We offer free sexual health supplies, such as condoms. We have eCheckup to Go, which is an alcohol screening program that I mentioned. All of your students as first years completed alcohol EDU before they came, and so our department manages that. We also have stress kits that students can rent in our office, and so they have Play-Doh, origami, a lot of things that they do typically around midterms or finals, and so they can use it for study breaks. And then we have Cognito is something new as well. That was another online education that was required this year for all first year students. So it's how to recognize concerns in your friends and how to get them the resources that they need. So those are some of the offerings that we have in health promotion and wellness. And now I'm going to switch hats and I'll talk a bit about student insurance, and then I will turn it over to Sharnesta. So we hope you all know that health insurance is mandatory for all students here at UChicago. As Marius had mentioned, the student life fee covers many of the services within our areas, but then the health insurance supplements if a student needs to have prescriptions or if they need to seek outside care as well. If a student wants to participate on the university student health insurance plan, they can enroll right now, and I'll give you the deadline in a moment. The coverage actually starts September 1st, and then it goes through August 31st. So if a student signs up today, the coverage is retroactive, so if they did have bills, they could submit them for payment as well, because it does start September 1st. The deadline to waive or enroll in the plan is October 19th. And I want to bring this up and just emphasize this to all of you, because students will receive emails from the insurance office. If they do not waive the insurance and they already have a plan in place and they choose not, or they just don't take any action and do not waive, they will be assessed the premiums and they will receive the USHIP plan. And so I just strongly encourage you, if you already have insurance and your students are covered, make sure that they waive the USHIP plan by October 19th. If they do need coverage, USHIP is a phenomenal plan. It's a platinum level plan, and it provides many services and really a lot of coverage. It's benefits rich, as we say, and so that students can really receive much care here in the city of Chicago. The website is studentinsurance.uchicago.edu, and if students have dependents, they would have to provide documentation. If they are married or if they have children, they would have to provide that documentation, and they can add their dependents after they have enrolled in the plan. If you are wondering if your current insurance plan meets the criteria needed for waiving, there is a checklist on the website, and the website and information on insurance is also in that brochure that Marius had pointed out. So you can look at that checklist just to make sure prior to them waiving. And if they need to make any changes, so maybe they phase off of the plan, or maybe some employment has changed for a parent, and so they might want to consider adding USHIP, they're able to do so, but it has to meet some of these criteria, whether they've aged off, if there was a marriage or divorce, a change in an employer plan, birth or adoption of a child. The full list is available on the website if you're curious. And if any of those changes have been made, you have 31 days from the date of that change to either add or remove USHIP coverage. Now, student health serves as the primary care physicians for the USHIP plan. So if a student is on the university student health insurance plan, they would need to first seek care within student health, and then if they needed to be referred out, they can do so. If they do not receive that referral initially, then there would be a $50 non-referral deductible that would be charged. So if any of your students will be on the USHIP plan, I strongly encourage that they reach out to student health so that they can establish the relationship initially, and then if they need the referrals out, they may do so. The premiums for students, the annual premium is $4,398. That is billed in 3 installments in autumn, winter, and spring quarters. So there will be a $1,466 bill on your bursar bill. And even though you only have 3 payments, it does cover through August 31st. So sometimes there are questions about that. And then lastly, if students would like to elect to have dental or vision coverage, we do offer those. Those can be found on our website as well. They are optional. It's completely up to them if they choose to. There are 3 options for dental, as you can see here, and then 2 options for vision. And you can see the comparisons on our website, and they can sign up. They would sign up directly with those insurance carriers for that elective coverage. So just in summary, in the video you saw that we have on-campus insurance representatives. They are actually housed in the Health Promotion and Wellness Department on 61st and Ellis. And so I strongly encourage, if students have questions or received a bill that they're not sure about, they can come and speak to the United Healthcare reps. And then our UChicago contact is Celia Bergman, and her information is here, and then information is also included in your brochures. So I will turn it over now so I can give Sharnessa plenty of time. She is the Director of Student Disabilities, and so she will discuss that with you as well, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers afterwards.
Good morning, all. As she mentioned, I am Sharnessa Warren, the Director of Student Disability Services. So wanted to give you a little bit of background about our department. We're located on the north side of campus, actually in the parking garage. A lot of people get confused by that, but we're right on the corner within the parking garage, and it's actually a nice office. It's not a garage. There's about 7 of us who do this work and the coordination of this work. So I'm the director. There are 2 other directors. One is a deputy director and associate director. We also have 4 different program coordinators, so one of them being an American Sign Language interpreter and coordinator who's full-time, who coordinates those services for our students. We also have 3 other coordinators, program coordinators, who oversee the day-to-day operations of the accommodations in which we provide, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But it's a very busy office, and we keep a lot of activities going on with the coordination of services, and we'll talk about those in a second. I want to just give you a basic definition of what disability is, should your student need to come forward. A disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. And so that can be anything from walking to sleeping to talking to thinking to reading to writing, all of those day-to-day activities in which we do on a daily basis. If there's any kind of impairment to that, then a student would be eligible or qualify for the services in which our offices provides. Now this is a little different in higher ed because in the K through 12 setting, most institutions are responsible for finding the students who qualify for accommodations and then providing those accommodations. What's different once they get to higher ed, because once you're in higher education, you have to come forward. The institution is not obligated to come and find the students who qualify for these services. You must come and self-disclose to our office. So it's important that if your student meets any of this criteria at any time, whether it's a permanent or a temporary condition, then they would be eligible for some services and accommodations through our office. So again, as I said, we provide services to any student or any qualified student who meets that definition that is enrolled in any program or that's sponsored by the university. So we will support your student, again, like I said, if it's a chronic long-term health condition, whether it's in remission or not, and then we will also support those temporary conditions. So there are times when students will be playing around and break an arm or break a leg, or as an athlete, a student athlete at the university will experience a concussion or something, and they need some type of accommodations academically, then they would be ideal candidates to come and to be referred to our office so that we can provide them with accommodations and support. Some of the major categories that we see in our department are cognitive, learning disabilities. We also see physical or mobility conditions that can include allergies and health, diabetes, cancer, all of these variety of physical health conditions that we provide accommodations for, vision and hearing, sensory conditions, and then as well as psychological mental health conditions. So, if your student qualifies for any of these, I have a few assignments for you all to do. First of all, I need you to tell them that they belong. A lot of our students, particularly the ones with mental health issues, I give this speech quite often when I meet with them on a one-on-one basis, and just reassuring them that just because you have a condition or a disability of some sort and you need some accommodations does not mean that you do not belong here. I've asked them, did you compete to get in just like everybody else? And they nod their heads, yes. And so as long as you have competed to be in the program, you've earned the right to be here. Just because you need an accommodation and need to do something a little differently does not mean that you don't belong. So your assignment as their parents, and my job also when they come to see me, is to remind them that they do indeed belong here. The other thing is, another theme that I typically give to our students is that it's natural for us to need to accommodate from time to time. So it's natural for me, if I can't hear you, I'm gonna lean in to hear you a little bit better, or I'm gonna ask you to turn the volume up or something of that sort. Or if my eyes are a little fatigued and I can't see something, I'm gonna bring it a little closer. Or if it's not really just fatigued and I just can't see very well, I'm gonna tell myself, okay, I need to go and get some eyeglasses. So those are natural things that we do, and it's natural for us as humans to self-accommodate. And so reminding our students that it is okay to need to self-accommodate, to accommodate in any way or in some form or fashion. And so just reminding them that it's natural. Okay. The other thing is that it's normal. So the same way that the students get sick, or they come up with the flu, or they have a condition where they require counseling, those are natural or normal things that happen to all of us from time to time. And so going through those, or having those moments, or having episodes where you need to go for help or get some support, so it's just the same way they would go to student health or wealth and promotions or student counseling. They can come to student disability services and get some support as well with the accommodations that they may need academically, as well as in housing for some of our students who require specific living arrangements. So it's normal, okay? So the way that we typically provide the services is through this interactive process. We require all students to have an intake interview with us, because I like to think of them as experts of their own experience. So I need their perspective. I need them to tell me, because not every disability, a lot of people can have the exact same diagnosis, but they experience different symptoms of that diagnosis. And so for me, it's important that we interview them to talk to them about their own experience and what symptoms they're actually displaying. Then we also ask them for documentation, because we need to have something to pin our hat on for the students to tell us and to share with us their documentation. We safeguard that information and we keep it private within our office, and we house it there, and we do not share that with any of the faculty or any of the instructors. And so your students don't need to go and self-disclose their medical documentation or reports to their faculty members and instructors. We do that in our shop, and we review that documentation. Once we've determined that they qualify as an individual with a disability, we've met with them and we've reviewed their documentation, we equip them with an ADL, or an accommodation determination letter. They are able to use that letter to be able to share that with their instructors. So that letter does not have their diagnosis, it doesn't have their disability or anything like that, but it will outline for the instructors what accommodations they're eligible for while they're here. And then there are times where some of the accommodations get a little tricky, or instructors have questions about how will this play out in my class. Can the student actually miss 3 labs out of my class due to a health condition? And then we have these interactive conversations with the faculty and with instructors about what's appropriate and what makes sense and what's actually reasonable given the parameters of the class. And then we also provide a lot of implementation and support for those students, and we'll talk about a few of those, or I'll outline those in just a moment. And then this is not a one-time shop. It's not that you come in one time if you need these accommodations their first year and then you can't get anything new. Obviously, we evolve, we change, and new things come up. And so this process starts all over again if something changes in their condition, or if they realize what they have right now is not working for them. They can always come back and meet with one of the directors, including myself. This is just a brief list of some of the accommodations that we typically provide, being testing, so time and a half for exams, reduced distraction testing environment, note-taking assistance for some students who are having trouble with concentrating, so it's difficult for them to sit and listen in class and take notes simultaneously. Some students with physical disabilities who cannot write and take notes, so sometimes we need to do note-taking assistance. This is probably one of the bigger ones. That and the testing categories are the ones that keep us the most busy, the busiest in our office, because it's a quarterly rehiring of note takers every quarter for the hundreds of classes that students need. And then the testing accommodations. So there is a lot of students who are coming in this year who have had this accommodation on the ACT or the SAT, and they require extra time for their exams in the program. So we provide testing accommodations in a reduced distraction environment. Sometimes instructors will do it, but for the most part, for our incoming first-year college students or just the college, our office will do a lot of the coordination for those exams. Document conversion services are for students who require text in a different way. So some students listen to text better rather than reading it, and it helps with their comprehension and their pace. And so we do a great deal of documenting, or I spend a lot of time, I have a whole team dedicated to just breaking binders on books, scanning them, and making sure they're in an accessible format for the students. As I mentioned, we do have an interpreting coordinator who will coordinate all of those services. We do collaborate with a great number of campus partners like parking, facilities, housing, and all of the accommodations that students may need within those facilities. For students with special dining requirements, we do work with dining services as well. And then some of our trickier accommodations that require a great deal of coordination between multiple partners across campus is these complex chronic health conditions. So we might reach out to student counseling with the permission of the student, of course, and student health, and talk about, okay, well, what is this, what's the prognosis and how long do we do that. And then sometimes students get flexibility accommodations and things of that sort. So we do a lot of different accommodations for our students. Last but not least, I just wanted to let you know that we are rolling out, this is new this year. When I came to the office about 2 years ago, everything was paper-based, and so we were relying on paper files or Google spreadsheets or some of those kind of things. And now we've actually, we're going to roll out as of October 1st, the first day of class, we're going to roll out an accommodations accessible information management system portal. So students are now able to log in to kind of see where we are in the process of processing their accommodation request. They can go in and look at a copy of their letters, because sometimes they lose the letters that we give them. They can go in and pull another copy down. They can reach out to us to schedule their exams, which happen on a quarterly basis, find out where their exam is going to take place. They can coordinate their note-taking services with a note-taker. They can go in and tell us which class they want to have note-taking in. So we've got a lot of robust services within the software program, and I'm super excited to roll it out, but that's new and coming as of October 1st. So that's all that I have, and I'll save all the questions to the end.
What happens in an emergency? And it really sort of depends, and what it depends on is sort of, I would say, the level of incapacitation. So if you are a student under the age of 18, then parents will be called, particularly if you are the next of kin or the legal guardian. There is a legal, there's a hierarchy of people who get to be called, for minors, parents are at the top of that hierarchy. So if your student is 17, then actually that's easy. For a student who's 18, then it really depends on two things. One is their incapacitation, and incapacitation takes many forms. One is is the asthma attack so bad that the poor kid can't breathe? Then we're going to call a next of kin. Is the student actually unconscious? And unconscious doesn't necessarily happen because of some awful illness. If you have been concussed because, and this literally happened last year, you're picking something up and you hit your head against the fire extinguisher and then hit your head a second time against the wall and you're on the floor, we're going to call the emergency contact in that situation. If you end up in the emergency room, then the emergency contact is who gets called. So I would suggest that all of you make yourselves the emergency contact for your student, because that will put you at the top of the hierarchy for who gets called in an emergency situation of incapacitation. However, if a student is 18 and they are in an emergent situation, you got to understand that if they can comprehend and they are able to say, I don't want my parents called, then it is unfortunate, but we have to follow that person's instruction to us, unless there are probably three important unlesses. One, imminent harm to self in a mental health crisis, imminent harm to others in a mental health crisis, or imminent or a quickly emergent illness. So meningitis, for instance, is one of the circumstances. So a person can get meningitis at 8 a.m. and be dead by 12 p.m. And so that kind of place, a physician or a healthcare worker can reach out to emergency contacts over the instruction of a student. However, I would say your relationship with your student is your best weapon in an emergency in making sure that you are contacted. I can tell you that everyone in student health, I have never sent anyone to the emergency room and said, don't worry about it, your parents don't have to know. And we often tell students, please call your parents. Is there someone we can call? Is there someone you would like to be involved in? Is there someone you would like to be involved with this process as we go through it? So we try very hard to encourage our students to reach out to parents in an emergency. But this is all of you guys know your 18-year-olds could not be mistaken for adults. Unfortunately, the laws of these United States say that they are adults, and so we have to be cautious about how we make these decisions. But we really, really do try to encourage our students to involve their parents. And then there are lots of things other than emergency in which we really do try and involve them. So when we're having discussions about you need to go see a subspecialist, right? That bill is coming to you. So we want them to reach out to you to make sure that you know that, that $3,000 bill really is legitimate, right? So that's why I say what happens in an emergency really is, it depends, but you should know that we really do make our best effort to try and have parents be informed in an emergency situation, but make yourselves their emergency contact. That's really important. And also, if you want to be involved in their ongoing medical care, sign a release of medical information, because what that then tells us is the student has given us permission to talk to you as if we are talking to them. However, they can rescind that release in whole or in part verbally, all right? You can imagine there are some embarrassing conditions in which they might want you to know that they are getting care, but they don't want you to know for what care they're getting, okay? Again, we try and talk through them, telling them, honesty is always the best policy, because you guys are going to get the explanation of benefits, right? You're going to want to know what was happening that incurred this cost. And so we try and encourage them to reach out to you as much as possible.